I welcome you to this section, and we will be looking at the contestable positions in ACHSN at the zonal level. And this is taken from the National Constitution of Association of Community Health Students of Nigeria. So whatever we are discussing here, you should pay closer attention. However, we have the questions you are going to answer, and the school that answered the question correctly will have an award, and the individual who actually answered the question correctly have an award. But it's important that I let you understand that in this competition, it is only one school that will emerge, and it is only one person that still emerge. But everyone is entitled to make an attempt, and every school is entitled to make an attempt. Then after a period of 24 hours, we'll take down the responses, then find out the actual person and the school that answered correctly. Remember, time is of great importance in this judgment. Time is of great importance in this judgment, and you must not use an AI response. Remember, we also have AI detector here to help us identify if actually use AI to answer the question, because we already have the answers. So remember, importantly, time. The first person that answers and got correctly is a winner, and the school is the winner. However, everyone is expected to attempt this question, and every school is expected to attempt this question. At the end, we will now take down the responses and find out the actual winners. Thank you. So, as you're preparing to be an executive member of the Association of Community Students of Nigeria, it is also important you understand the fundamental rules as enshrined in the Constitution governing your activity as a member or as an executive of the association. First is the national president. So in our context, we are talking about the zonal president, because the function at the national is similar at the zonal. The only difference is that the national has superior power or supreme power to the zone. But at the zonal level, the president is the number one. So every other responsibility as assigned at the national level, it's what is assigned to the zonal president at the zonal level. So the zonal president shall be the chief executive spokesperson of the association in both internal and external affairs of minor and major issues in the zone. So the zonal president will be the person who will take the first decision after consultation with his executives and from his stakeholders or relevant persons. He takes the final lead. He or she shall be responsible for the overall coordination of the activities and management of the association. Here, when we mean coordination of activity, we are trying to look at things like the zonal conference, competitions like this, visitations, interaction of the zone to another zone. That is activities and everything that must happen in the association. He or she shall take overall coordination of the activities and management of the association. That means he or she will be responsible for the management of the fund, preserving of the assets, and everything in management. So the person must be of high skill and must be a leader. He or she shall preside over the meetings of the executive council at the zonal level. Time to time, the executive council will have meeting. So he or she shall preside over the meeting. Then the zonal president shall direct the zonal secretary general to summon meetings of the executive council. The zonal president shall have power to summon for emergency meeting with any unit after due consultations with the unit executive council. Let's say there's a problem in the unit. He or she, as the president, have the powers to summon an emergency executive meeting. The president shall have power to recommend suspension of deviant executive with the support of the 2/3 majority member of the delegate assembly. So in this aspect, that's what we know as the delegate assembly. It is when the each unit sent delegates to the meeting or a conference, mostly in a conference. So that is when half of the people who came for that delegate assembly, they form a quorum. And that will have to make recommendation to the zonal president for suspension. So he or she has the power to recommend suspension of a deviant executive with the support of the 2/3 majority member of the delegate. So let's say the delegate assembly, 2/3 do not support that motion. It will not stand. He or she shall be a co-signatory to the National Association bank account. He or she shall plan in conjunction with the treasurer and director of finance a semi-annual speech. He or she shall control the use of assets belonging to the association. He or she shall have rights to address the delegate assembly when the need arises. He or she shall countersign all minutes adopted. He or she shall perform other duties as may be assigned to him or her by the delegate assembly. He or she shall have the veto power to make null and void on certain issues that threatens the peace of the meeting and delegate assembly. He or she shall perform other duties that may be assigned to him or her by the delegate assembly, governing board of trustees, the zonal stakeholders, and the coordinators, respectively. So he or she must perform these duties as assigned to him or her as a zonal president. Now, the first question: what was the significance of the Ama-Ata conference? What was the significance of the Ama-Ata conference? Now, the position of the national vice president. One, the zonal national vice president shall deputize and assist the president in all his duties. The so-called deputize for the president in the absence of the former. He or she shall perform any other duties that may be assigned to him or her by the delegate assembly. He or she shall perform all the functions shall be performed by such person as the delegate assembly may appoint by 2/3 of the number present. This order and decision reached should be communicated duly to the president, the secretary general at the zonal level. He or she shall perform all the secretarial duties of the association executive council. He or she shall summon at the instance of the national, he or she shall summon at the instance of the national president. Remember, whenever we see national president, for the sake of the zonal level, it is the zonal president, please. Giving in writing all minutes of the executive council and delegate assembly. He or she shall compile and submit to the association delegate assembly a semi-annual report of the association activity. He/she shall keep record of the association's proceedings. He or she shall perform any other duty as may be assigned to him or her by the Executive Council or Delegate Assembly or significant orders, such as the zonal coordinator. He or she shall be the chief administrative officer of the association. So the person will be responsible for management of all administrative activities of the association, such as the nominal role of the members, the nominal role of the unit presidents, the nominal role of all executives, their data, all the minutes, every property belonging to the association, and any other administrative functions. The Assistant Secretary General. This position is a deputy to the Secretary General and shall perform in assistive way to the General Secretary. So he shall assist the General Secretary in all his duties. So when the word assistance, it means to support. So the Secretary can delegate you as the assistant to help. The assistant can act in the absence of the Secretary General, but remember, you must have spoken with the Secretary before you act in the absence of the Secretary. He or she shall perform any other duty as may be assigned to him or her by the Executive Council or Delegate Assembly. The Treasurer of the zone. The Treasurer shall receive from the Director of Finance all monies and deposit the same money into the association bank account within 48 hours of receipt of such monies. That is, within 2 days, every money you have received, you must submit or send it to the bank account of the association. The Treasurer shall keep accurate account of all monies and expenditures. This actually means that the Treasurer can make use of all relevant documents to make sure auditing will be of easy. Retirement of documents is priority, especially when organizing conferences. You should make sure that all documents that we are used in procurement from any other department or unit or section are retired. This is to ensure transparency in the account. He or she shall maintain an interest account, impressed account of not more than 5,000 naira only. An imprest is a money that is given to the treasurer for day-to-day administrative function. The treasurer shall be a co-signatory to the association bank account. The treasurer shall be the chairperson of the financial committee appointed by the association's delegate assembly. The treasurer shall submit financial report of the association whenever required by the executive or delegate assembly. And this must be in an acceptable standard. The treasurer shall hand over financial documents of the association to the auditor on request for accountability. So when the auditor says send, you actually have to send. The treasurer shall read current audited statement of account to the delegate assembly during deliberations. The office of Director of Finance, or also known as Financial Secretary. The Financial Secretary shall receive all monies accruing to the association and cause same amount to be deposited into the association's bank account by the treasurer. So it is a duty of the treasurer and financial secretary to receive the money and then hand it over within 24 hours to the treasurer. So in summary, money received into the association should not exceed 72 hours before reaching the bank account. So the financial secretary has only 24 hours to deposit, to hand over the money to the treasurer, and the treasurer have 48 hours to hand over the money to the bank. If they fail this, then there's breach of the constitutional powers and provision. The financial secretary or the director of finance shall have the power to issue receipts in the name of the association in respect of money paid to him or her for or on behalf of the association. He or she shall be a co-signatory to the association bank account. He or she shall be second chairperson of the financial committee appointed by the association delegate assembly. He or she shall, together with the treasurer, prepare and submit financial report of the association whenever required by the executive council or delegate assembly. He or she shall be accountable to the executive council and delegate assembly. The office of social organizing secretary, 1. He or she shall be responsible for disseminating of vital information to all units, either in the form of newspaper publications, magazines, and any other relevant publication. And this subjected to the approval of the executive council. The next question. What was the political and demographic context in which primary health care was implemented during the Alma-Ata Declaration? These questions are all based on Alma-Ata declarations. I repeat, what was the political and demographic context in which primary health care was implemented? The third question. What is primary health care according to Alma-Ata Declaration? What is primary health care? Continuation of the duties of the organizing secretary, 1. He or she shall give adequate publicity to the activities of the association. That is, the person will be responsible for our YouTube handles, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, and shall use them for publication purposes only. He or she shall sign all external publications and advertisements of the association, unless otherwise directed by the executive council at the zonal level. He or she shall moderate over delegate assembly after consultations with the executive council. So when we talk about executive council, it means all other executives at the zonal level, the president, the vice president, treasurer, and every one of them. So you must seek hearing from them before proceeding with this part of his duty, if need be. The National Public Secretary. Remember, okay, the zonal social organizing secretary shall deputize and assist the organizing secretary, 1, in all her duties, and shall act in the absence of the organizing secretary, and shall perform any other duty assigned to him or her by the executive council. The public secretary. The public secretary shall be responsible for dissemination of vital information to all units through newspaper, magazine, and other publications. I think this is where the constitution is a bit dicey. The function here is almost interwoven with what we saw in the social organizing secretary. But I think the president shall be the person harmonizing this. Subject to the approval of the executive council, subjected to the approval of the executive council at the zonal level, shall be responsible for giving permission to national workshops, to zonal seminars, workshops, and symposiums. So it is the duty of this office to organize for scientific workshops, seminars, and symposiums, subjected to approval of the executive council. And remember, the executive council shall be overseen by the zonal coordinator and zonal stakeholders. The Publicity secretary shall give adequate publicity of the activities of association. The public secretary shall give press release as may be directed by the Executive Council or Delegate Assembly of the association, and perform other functions that may be assigned to him or her. He shall assign all external publication and advertisement of the association unless otherwise directed by the Executive Council. He shall moderate the delegate assembly after consultation with the national executive. So the function of the public secretary is somehow interwoven with that of the social organizing secretary. Let's look at it again. So the social organizing secretary, he shall be responsible for the dissemination of vital information to all units via newspaper, magazine, and other publication, subject to the approval of the National Executive Council for giving permission to national seminars, workshops, and symposiums, and shall give adequate publicity. So it's a bit dicey here, and we shall sought for legal advice in regard to this. But however, this is as it is in the Constitution. Well, the National Public Secretary too shall deputize the zonal public secretary. I mean, the zonal publicity secretary too shall deputize for the zonal public secretary and shall carry out functions of the public secretary in his or her absence. The fourth question: why do people believe the goal of health for all was never reached? Why do people believe the goal of health for all was never reached? Remember, these questions are coming up because we actually celebrated the Alma-Ata Declaration since last week. That's why we are having this challenge. I want to have the best brain and the best school. Why do people believe the goal of health for all was never reached? The next question: what was the social framework of the Declaration of Alma-Ata? What was the social framework of the Declaration of Alma-Ata? The zonal provost marshal office. He or she shall maintain peace and tranquility in a meeting or delegate assembly. He or she shall ensure punctuality and orderliness in meeting of delegates. He or she shall be chief protocol officer. The zonal auditor 1. The zonal auditor 1 shall be responsible for ensuring that the financial affairs of the association is conducted in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. He or she shall be responsible for ensuring that all documents released relating to financial transaction of the association are produced in the time of the transaction and kept in custody. Thirdly, he or she shall make sure that all disbursements from the association costs are properly accounted for and that cash received is paid into the bank account of the association. He or she shall prepare audit statements of the annual audit of the association account. He or she shall give periodic audit statements of account to the delegate assembly. He or she shall perform any other duties that may be assigned to him or her by the president or delegate assembly. The zonal auditor 2 shall deputize the auditor 1, shall carry out all functions of the auditor 1 in his absence, and shall perform any other duty that may be assigned to him or her by the president or delegate assembly. So this is where we got this, that every of these functions as enumerated in the national is applicable. Note, Same composition and jurisdiction applies to zonal and unit board. So this is how every unit is supposed to be. Every unit is supposed to have the composition of these executives. Every unit should have the composition of all these executives and carry out their functions as itemized in this presentation. So it is expected that every unit shall have a president, vice president, secretary, assistant secretary, treasurer, financial secretary, social organizing secretary, social organizing secretary 2, publicity secretary 1, public secretary 2, provost marshal, auditor 1, auditor 2, and all of that. So that brings us to the end of this presentation. I wish you well as you undertake this journey.